Yanchi Jimbo Zorda Ningmi Zhang Zongder Molam Jimbo Ngabjata, Bakar Targam Zanto Shirmato, Tomba Tuji Chanla Kisham Sar, Mission Road Sering Shangams, Jao Tuji Shanlami Larma. Jimmy Bunzo Jala Soran, the Gorgia Tobam Por Shinjir Lord.
Now, let's continue our study of the Bodhicharyavatara. At this point in the Bodhicharyavatara, we are focusing on the chapter 1, the benefits of bodhicitta. This chapter mainly explains how we can enter into this treatise. When entering, there is the person who enters, the motivation of the practitioner, also the method of entering. Altogether, these are explained in 3 aspects. The first part is about the person who enters, which we finished explaining relying on discussing the 2 methods of both body and mind. Today we begin to discuss the part on the motivation of the practitioner. This is about how to generate bodhicitta from the perspective of motivation. The motivation of the practitioner is divided into 2 parts: the merit of generating bodhicitta and the method of upholding bodhicitta. This chapter mainly discusses the merit of generating bodhicitta. The next chapter will discuss the method of upholding bodhicitta. Bodhicitta has such great merit. So, we'll discuss how to uphold it in our own mind streams. First, the merit of generating bodhicitta is explained in 3 aspects. The merit of generating bodhicitta is divided into 3 parts: actual merit, the reasonableness of this merit, and third, praising those who generate bodhicitta. The first part of actual merit is further divided into 2 parts: common merit and special merit. Then, the topic of common merit is explained in 5 points. The first is purifying negative karma. Bodhicitta is the best method for purifying negative karma. How is bodhicitta a method of purification? The following verse goes, "Virtue thus is weak, and always evil is of great and overwhelming strength. Except for perfect bodhicitta, what other virtue is there that can lay it low?" It is clearly stated in the verse. For us ordinary beings, the virtue we create is very weak, but the negativity we create is extremely powerful. Apart from bodhicitta, what method can we practice? Can eliminate such negativity in the whole world? There is simply no way. The time that ordinary beings use to create dharma is very brief. As we discussed yesterday, it lasts like a flash of lightning in the dark night. Nowadays, most people don't have faith in Buddhism. Even if you do, you treat it as something extra, not as your main practice. Most of your time goes to business, work, family, and so on. These are seen as the most important goals in life. But studying the Dharma is not treated as the most important thing. Most lay people in the world are probably like this. We know many people live in the city. The population keeps growing. Among millions in a city, how many truly study the Dharma? Among those who study, how many practice properly? Of those who practice properly, how many devote all 24 hours to practice with focused mind, pure heart, and proper conduct? We can see for ourselves we are indeed very weak when it comes to creating virtue. For example, now we are listening to the Bodhicharyavatara. Not many people may listen, and even if you do, even though I'm not a great teacher, I believe that the teachings given each day are basically in line with the teachings of the great Indian and Tibetan masters and the instructions of the lineage masters. But how many people can truly take these teachings to heart? Logically, no matter what dharma we receive, we should always take some notes. As ordinary people, our memory is limited. If we only keep the teachings on tapes or other devices, it may not bring much benefit to our own mind streams. So, try to remember each day's teachings in your mind. If you really can't remember, then take out a notebook and write down the teachings each day. You should record the key points every day. That is a more proper way to listen to the Dharma, but recently I found that most people do not listen in this way. They just casually finish today's class and think that's enough. They listen once, but what was actually taught? Most people have no idea, which is quite surprising. This is not what true Dharma study should be. Here, after the teaching, the Dharma teachers provide guidance. After the Dharma teachers, there are tutors who help further. After the tutors, there is an exam the next day. With all these skillful means, then we can truly cultivate bodhicitta in our own minds. But if you are distracted and inattentive, can you really integrate these Mahayana teachings into your mind? I'm afraid it's very difficult. Of course, I understand that many people in the world are truly very busy. Sometimes we may have the intention, but lack the energy. This is one reason. But the most fundamental reason is that we don't truly value listening to the Dharma. We must treat this as something important and take it seriously. If we do so, then we may truly gain something in our own mind streams. Otherwise, just receiving a transmission may not have much real meaning. So here we are talking about when we ordinary people try to practice virtue, the time we spend on it is very short, and the strength of our virtue is also very weak. Moreover, while doing good deeds, we often encounter all kinds of obstacles. For example, we often get sleepy during teachings, or our minds wander and we get distracted. Sometimes we feel unwell, are in a bad mood, or family members interfere, or other afflictions arise and disturb us. Even in a short period, so many obstacles can arise. These interruptions to our virtuous actions are very common, but the power of negativity is very strong and it lasts a long time. Some commentaries compare it to darkness thick with storm clouds. Such darkness is very powerful and it lasts for a very long time. In the same way, we ordinary people don't care how much time is wasted in creating negative karma now. For example, when we attend a Dharma class, people think, does this take a whole hour? That's so tiring. But if we spend time listening to some pop songs or other entertainment, we feel the time passes in an instant. If we spend time on the Dharma, an hour of study can feel like a long time. But when we spend hours on meaningless gossip, we don't even notice how many hours have passed. Most people in the world today can spend all night in dance halls. Some go to tea houses or other distracting places, playing mahjong, gambling, or doing all sorts of improper things. Some people watch TV or movies every day. So I think if you truly want to study the Dharma, whether you are a monastic or a lay person, things like watching TV or surfing the internet for unwholesome things will not bring any benefit to your mind stream. Our minds are already extremely distracted. If we add the distractions of the outside world, the allure of external things is already so strong and our own mind strength is so weak. In this way, our practice will completely fall apart. We will lose our foundation entirely. So I think whether you want to be a Buddhist is your own choice. Even from a legal perspective, your faith is your own freedom. Not believing is also your freedom. We have nothing to say about that. But if you truly want to have faith and sincerely study the Dharma, then I think it's best to give up all these pointless activities outside. As beings in the desire realm, we still need to eat and wear clothes. We have to take care of basic needs for survival and daily life. This is not something we reject. What I mean here is that our virtuous intentions are extremely weak, while negative karma is very strong. In the future, the sufferings of samsara and the hell realms will be hard to avoid. From beginningless time until now, our negative actions have been so powerful, so strong, and so enduring. But our virtuous actions are so feeble, so the negative karma accumulated over such a long time can be said to be enormous, like a mountain of sins. Can we destroy it or overcome it by our own power? Now, it's extremely difficult. So what kind of virtue can we rely on? It is already explained here. We should rely upon loving kindness, compassion, the wisdom of emptiness, and the great compassion of the Tathagata, which is exactly the bodhicitta. No other virtuous action can surpass it. The karma we have created since beginningless time is truly frightening. Apart from perfect bodhicitta, no other virtue can overcome such terrible karma. Some people might think other virtuous practices should work too. El practice Dzogchen, I practice Mahamudra, or I meditate, or recite the Buddha's name. These are all excellent and profound practices, so why can't they overcome all negative karma? Of course, some sutras do say they can overcome negative karma, but no matter how much you meditate or recite mantras, if you lack bodhicitta, do these actions have merit? They do have merit, but can they overcome all negative karma? We have already studied this in the teachings of Patrul Rinpoche. Without bodhicitta, even if we practice the highest dzogchen, it becomes a practice of the lesser vehicle, or it becomes something unclear, not truly Buddhist practice. So if even the highest practices like dzogchen are not truly Mahayana without bodhicitta, how could other practices be the exception? So in the past, His Holiness also said, we should all have this aspiration to wholeheartedly practice bodhicitta. We should think, The most important thing in my life is to practice bodhicitta. Of course, it's fine to practice other mantras and secret teachings, but if we lack bodhicitta, the most fundamental thing, then the negative karma we've accumulated since beginningless time is hard to purify. Some people think reciting the Vajrasattva mantra should work too, or abiding in the state of emptiness should work, but the key is your motivation. With what kind of motivation do you recite the Vajrasattva mantra? With what kind of motivation do you meditate on emptiness? If you lack bodhicitta as your foundation, then your meditation on emptiness just becomes a worldly practice. Your recitation of the Vajrasattva mantra may not be able to purify the karma of yourself and others from beginningless time. So we should try to understand this verse seriously. Whether in the past, the future, or the present, the negative karma we create is quite a lot. Even just in this life, we create many negativities. We will also create more in the future. If we want to cut off this stream of negativity, we must practice bodhicitta. Without bodhicitta, other virtues cannot destroy this stream of negative karma. That's the point. The human body and motivation towards virtue are both rare and short-lived. As we mentioned before, for us ordinary people, this human life is hard to obtain, and our motivation to create virtue is as fleeting as lightning in the night, very rare. Therefore, the power of virtuous antidote is quite weak. In other words, such virtuous antidotes are always weak and feeble at every moment. This is truly the case for us ordinary people. The time we spend practicing each day is very short. And in that short practice, how effective is it? Everyone can see for themselves. Sometimes we just get sleepy. I've heard that some people can't even get up in the morning. If we can't even get up now, how can we truly cultivate bodhicitta? 6 o'clock is not really that early. For us ordinary people, let alone practicing for 24 hours or for a long time, some people can't even manage half an hour of real practice. And even if they do, sometimes their minds wander or they get interrupted. So we should know this point. But on the other hand, when it comes to negative actions, all the conditions for creating non-virtue come together very easily. For example, when I feel anger towards someone, the object, my intention, and my state of mind, all the factors are instantly present, and it all comes together very quickly. But when we try to do something virtuous, it's very difficult to have all the necessary factors present. And that's why the power of negativity is especially strong and unstoppable. It's hard to imagine, and it keeps arising again and again. In a single day, we have countless discursive thoughts, but truly virtuous thoughts, bodhicitta, faith, or great compassion, are so brief and fleeting. Even at night when we dream, it's the same. We might dream of our root guru or hearing Dharma teachings only once a month or even just once a year. But all the other dreams are just random and chaotic. Every night many people would have countless chaotic dreams. Maybe once in 100 days we dream of doing something virtuous and we feel so happy about it. But most days we are completely lost in desire, anger, and ignorance. We've gotten used to it and think, oh, this is just normal. Yesterday, I had a bad dream, and the day before was the same. For most of us, whether it's our actions during the day or our dreams at night, we're lost in confusion. So it's clear that now we must have a virtue that can destroy negative karma. For these enormous negativities, apart from the perfect bodhicitta of wisdom and compassion, what other virtue can eliminate them? Nothing else can. The only solution is bodhicitta. So in the past, His Holiness also said, whenever we talk about the merit of bodhicitta, everyone should understand that no matter how many prostrations, mantras, or other virtuous acts we perform, they truly can't compare to giving rise to bodhicitta in our heart. If you don't have bodhicitta, no matter how many millions or billions of mantras you recite, the merit is actually not that great. If you do preliminary practices or meditate, the merit is still not that great. Maybe all this merit just transforms into the prosperity and happiness of the gods and human realms. Bodhicitta makes a world of difference. Therefore, in this world, bodhicitta is the source of the greatest merit, and when it comes to purifying negative karma, its power is the strongest. So we must give rise to bodhicitta. The Avatamsaka Sutra says, when a cat's eyes appear, all the mice are terrified. All the mice are extremely frightened when they see a wild cat's eyes. They are immediately subdued or pacified. They cannot bear it. They can't stand it. They become terrified as soon as they see the cat. They either run away immediately or freeze in place. In the same way, the all-knowing mind, the jewel-like eye, can subdue all the mice of karma and afflictions, so they cannot endure. Here, the all-knowing mind refers to the arising of supreme bodhicitta. The cat's eye of bodhicitta, when it appears, all the afflictions of desire, anger, and ignorance in our mind streams, and all the negative karma stored in the alaya consciousness are all eliminated at once. Just like mice dare not stay in front of a cat's eyes, all negative karma in the face of such bodhicitta cannot remain. Therefore, the merit of giving rise to bodhicitta in our mind streams is immense. Whether we are confessing or doing any kind of virtuous deed, we must have bodhicitta. Why is that? Because from beginningless time, all our negative karma has arisen from self-cherishing. What is the antidote to this negative karma? It is the altruistic mind. From beginningless time, ordinary people have almost never had an altruistic mind. But now, with a spiritual teacher and Mahayana Dharma, we are able to give rise to a mind that benefits others. If we do have an altruistic mind, then in the future, we will not create much negative karma. Why? Because all the negative karma we create is centered around ourselves. We make ourselves the center of everything. Think about all the karma you have created in the past. How much of it was for the sake of others? Almost none. It was all for yourself or for your friends and family. So if we truly give rise to bodhicitta in our mind streams, then the stream of negative karma will be cut off. The ornament of the sutras also says, if a wise person gives rise to bodhicitta, then countless negative actions are stopped or blocked. The verse's general meaning is, only those with wisdom can truly give rise to bodhicitta in their mind streams. Those without wisdom may not be able to accept it or give rise to it. But if you do give rise to bodhicitta, countless negative actions will not occur. The Jataka Tales also says, the way we care for ourselves and our loved ones, if we give rise to such loving bodhicitta for all beings, then all unwholesome actions will be stopped, let alone negative karma. Even unwholesome actions are prevented. Negative karma simply cannot arise. This is what the Jataka Tales teach. So in our daily lives, we should see if we could truly give rise to bodhicitta in our mind streams. If we do give rise to bodhicitta, then all the negative karma created by our body, speech, and mind will gradually disappear. If we have broken the pratimoksha vows, bodhisattva vows, or tantric vows, those negative actions will also gradually be purified. Major negative karma will be suppressed, and minor negative karma will be eliminated. This is the power and merit of bodhicitta. This is the first benefit we discussed. The second benefit is accomplishing benefit and happiness. For many eons deeply pondering, the mighty sages saw its benefits, whereby unnumbered multitudes are brought with ease to supreme joy. Here it is already stated, our compassionate Buddha spent countless eons deeply contemplating and examining. What did he ultimately discover? The awakened mind, bodhicitta. He found that bodhicitta is the most beneficial for all beings. Bodhicitta can bring beings the greatest help. Relying on bodhicitta, countless beings easily attain the supreme, perfect enlightenment. This is the general meaning of the verse. If we analyze it, we all know that the Buddha is truly the most compassionate toward all beings. Whether as a bodhisattva or as a Buddha, the only thought in his heart is to benefit and bring happiness to all beings. This is something we clearly saw in last year's study of extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni. In every story about the Buddha, whether he gave his body or did anything else, his only motivation was to benefit all beings. That is his ultimate goal and wish. In fact, Buddha spent countless eons. Many texts say it means 3 countless eons. That is within 3 great eons or countless great eons. Here, a great eon should be understood as explained in the Abhidharma Kosha. 80 intermediate eons make up one great eon. So throughout countless great eons, he always thought of sentient beings. What was it about sentient beings that concerned the Buddha most? His concern was to help all beings. What is the best way to do that? He kept thinking about this. And after thinking like this for so long, he finally discovered that the solution is bodhicitta. Only bodhicitta can truly bring great benefit and help to sentient beings. Apart from bodhicitta, the benefit of any other virtuous practice simply cannot compare to its benefit. From the perspective of time, the Buddha contemplated again and again over 3 countless eons. And who was doing this contemplation? It was the perfectly enlightened Buddha. That is, the Buddha who sees the true nature of all phenomena. The Buddha speaks only the truth, which is not the same as how we judge ordinary people to be trustworthy or reliable. These are not the same thing. No matter how good or remarkable a worldly person is, there is always a chance they might lie. But the Buddha, as described in the commentary on valid cognition, is one with perfect valid cognition. Such a man with valid cognition over countless eons. This was not just for a day or two, or even a lifetime or two. It's not like some scientists nowadays who spend maybe a few decades racking their brains to develop a theory and finally succeed. They might say, it took so many years to invent this product, or it took years to develop this theory. But the Buddha did not contemplate for just 100 or 200 or even 1,000 or 2,000 years. He contemplated over countless eons. He kept thinking, what is the true way to help all sentient beings? Finally, he realized that only bodhicitta is the supreme medicine. Because of the illness, we sentient beings suffer in samsara. What is the only medicine that can cure our illness? It is bodhicitta. Only bodhicitta can completely free us from the suffering, the suffering of change, all pervasive suffering of conditioning, and all kinds of pain in samsara. Ultimately, we attain the fruition of everlasting happiness. The great masters of the past taught us, if you want to repay the kindness of the Buddha, you should understand how the Buddha cared for us. So how did the Buddha care for us? It is by relying on bodhicitta to benefit sentient beings. Once, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche met Mifam Rinpoche in a dream of clarity. He said, the only way I can repay your kindness is to vow to benefit sentient beings in the future. In the ornament of the middle way, it also says, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have no other task than to benefit sentient beings. To put it in worldly terms, the only goal of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is to benefit sentient beings. But how do they benefit sentient beings? What is it that truly benefits sentient beings? It is bodhicitta. So here it says, over countless eons, the Buddha deeply contemplated and examined again and again. Through his wisdom, he finally discovered that only bodhicitta brings the greatest benefit to countless beings. Countless beings relying on bodhicitta easily attain the highest happiness. For over 2,500 years since the time of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, Mahayana practitioners, whether following sutra or tantra traditions and belonging to schools like Han Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism or Theravada and other traditions, how many have attained the supreme perfect enlightenment by practicing bodhicitta? It can be said that they are countless. They all relied on bodhicitta. Are there any realized beings without bodhicitta? Absolutely not. Some people might wonder, what about those who are reborn in the Pure Land? Do they have bodhicitta? If someone is truly reborn there, they must have bodhicitta in their mind streams. Otherwise, it's not possible. It is also mentioned in the teachings on the Pure Land. For those with great merit, at the very moment before rebirth in the Pure Land, all the accumulations for enlightenment are fully complete. This is certain. Also, great accomplished beings who perfect the accumulations through bodhicitta, and those who attain the state of a Buddha or Bodhisattva through bodhicitta are countless. And when they attain these results, it is very smooth and easy. It is not like the ascetic practices described by non-Buddhists, such as pulling out their hair or jumping into fire pits or bathing in the Ganges or burning themselves in the midst of 5 fires and so on. These are various kinds of extremely difficult ascetic practices, but in Buddhism we do not have such asceticism. We attain the perfect result of Buddhahood smoothly. Some people may think, but there are also many ascetic practices in Buddhism. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni practiced austerities for 6 years, and many great masters in their studies also went through many hardships. Aren't these also ascetic practices? Ours is actually quite different from the previous ones, because the ascetic practices of non-Buddhists do bring about truly unbearable physical and mental suffering. But in Buddhism, even though it is emphasized that bodhisattvas on the first bhumi and above may give away their heads, wives, wealth, children, and so on. But at that time, because their altruistic mind is so strong, their realization has reached the highest level. At that point, even if they cut flesh from their own body to give to others, it feels no different than giving away a handful of grass. There is no pain at all. The hardships we endure in studying the Dharma are similar. Some people think monastics suffer a lot and practice austerities in various places. But if they have strong faith in the Dharma and a strong wish to benefit sentient beings, then during their hardships, do they experience the same suffering as lay people living in hotels or luxury homes? I don't think so. Since ancient times, great masters have lived in the mountains on the surface. It may seem they have no food or clothing and appear to be suffering. But in reality, the inner happiness they gain by practice, when compared to those living a life of luxury in the world, who suffers more? I think many practitioners can see the difference. So, as it is already stated here, our Buddha, over countless eons, through his wisdom, discovered that bodhicitta is truly the only supreme medicine. Nowadays, some doctors and nutritionists think they have discovered some new product which is good for the body or mind. But in fact, it may have many side effects. Is it truly beneficial for a lifetime? It's really hard to guarantee, and it expires quickly. After 8 months, it expires. After a year, it expires. Most products are like this. But does bodhicitta ever expire? It never does. Besides, for these supplements or medicines, they may work well for some people. Many health products are like this nowadays. Some people take them and feel great. They even help promote them, like saying how great it is on TV commercials. I took this and it had such and such effect. But for some other people, for example, after taking it, instead of losing weight, they actually gain more. All kinds of situations can happen, but as long as the right conditions are present, bodhicitta will truly benefit every being with Mahayana potential. So we should truly recognize that bodhicitta is the essence of the Dharma, the crystallization of wisdom. We must understand this. Next is section 3. Fulfilling wishes. The verse says, all the Buddhas, for 3 countless eons, deeply contemplated and repeatedly examined the means to benefit beings and found that this bodhicitta is of the greatest benefit to beings because relying on this bodhicitta, countless beings can easily attain the supreme bliss of enlightenment. Now comes the third point. Those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys, should never turn away from bodhicitta. Literally, this means we should be aware that there are various sufferings in the 3 realms of samsara, to eliminate these sufferings and at the same time remove the unhappiness of sentient beings and to enjoy all kinds of happiness ourselves. We must never abandon bodhicitta. This is the basic literal meaning. But the meaning can also be explained as follows. For example, in the commentaries of Gyaltsabje and Bhutan Rinchen Drab, and also Khenpo Kunzang Palden, many commentaries relate this verse to the 3 levels of spiritual capacity. That is, the less, middling, and greater capacity beings. For example, the first line refers to the middling capacity level, the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas who wish to eliminate all their own sufferings in the 3 realms of samsara and attain the peace of complete selflessness. This line speaks of them. The second line refers to the greater capacity level, all those with the bodhisattva disposition who wish to eliminate all the suffering of beings in the 3 realms and remove all suffering from their own mind streams as well. They practice in order to achieve this. These are the greater capacity practitioners. The less capacity level refers to those who wish to enjoy all kinds of happiness themselves, whether in this life or the next, the happiness of humans and gods. Here, it is just a self-centered wish to enjoy good fortune. But whether you are of less, middling, or greater capacity, in fact, you all have some kind of aspiration. The greater level seeks liberation for the sake of all beings. The middling level seeks personal peace. The less level, of course, just wants personal happiness. No matter which type you are, you should never abandon bodhicitta. If you give up bodhicitta, many of your wishes may never be fulfilled. So this is what is taught here. Therefore, in our daily lives, no matter who we interact with or what kind of education we receive, we should start with ourselves, with our actions. We should demonstrate the kindness and good conduct of a Mahayana practitioner. This is very important. As mentioned earlier, all three levels of practitioners should never be separated from bodhicitta. So never forget bodhicitta. The Buddha also taught this in the sutras. The Buddha said, "O monks, even in the face of death, you must not abandon bodhicitta." Our teacher, His Holiness, also taught this before. Everyone should vow, life after life, never to abandon or slander the three jewels, to practice with unwavering determination, and not be shaken by obstacles or difficulties. This is the second teaching. Third, even when facing life-threatening danger, we must not abandon bodhicitta. His Holiness repeatedly emphasized the above three teachings. So here, we should understand that in this world, whether we seek happiness for ourselves, for others, or for ultimate liberation, we must never abandon bodhicitta. Why is this? Because we know that without bodhicitta, not to mention Buddhahood or the state of an arhat, even attaining true happiness in this life is very difficult. Why is that? If our self-cherishing mind is very strong, then even in this life we may not get along with anyone. This can lead to all kinds of negative karma. In this way, even in worldly affairs, we need bodhicitta and an altruistic mind. With an altruistic mind, everything becomes easier. So sometimes I think as Buddhists we should start with our own actions. There should be some clear outer signs of our practices. What kind of outer signs? Sometimes I think we should see ourselves as a lamp. A lamp has two functions. One is that it continuously produces the next moment of light. Each moment of the lamp gives rise to the next, constantly producing light. The second is that it dispels the darkness within its reach. So after we give rise to bodhicitta, we should help those around us, whether for our family or our workplace, even for our country or the whole world. No matter how great our power is, we should radiate the light of bodhicitta. Relying upon the light and warmth of our bodhicitta, we must benefit sentient beings. Some Dharma friends think this way: I'll just practice well now and not interact with anyone. I'll just cultivate myself. When I reach the first bhumi, then I'll start to do things, start to work. But I think this approach is probably not right. Even though we are ordinary beings now, we can still help those around us. What kind of influence do I have on others? From our own perspective, for example, as Mahayana Buddhists, we should pay attention to our relationships with our family and our associates in the workplace, and also with our monastery or Buddhist community. We must get along harmoniously with them. Otherwise, if we think we are a Buddhist but we ignore everyone and don't fit in with anyone, if that's the case, it's very hard to say whether we really have bodhicitta in our mind streams. First, we should have a positive influence on those around us. If we do this, we will have credibility and the ability to help others. Therefore, some Buddhists now need first establish harmony in their own families, then in society, and then to play a role in bringing peace to the whole world. We must strive for this. If we don't make the effort, if every Buddhist only thinks selfishly about their own achievement and practice, and can't even get along with their own family members or with colleagues and friends, and everything becomes troublesome, then it will be very difficult to spread the Dharma. Therefore, Buddhists must, of course, as monastics, we don't have a real family, but in fact, the monastery is our home. In the monastery, we have many Dharma friends. Whether in daily interactions with these Dharma friends or in our relationships with them, we should first play the role of a truly moral and noble person. In this way, I think the light of our bodhicitta can truly shine. Otherwise, if we never make the effort, it will be very difficult to spread Buddhism. Sometimes Buddhism is not just about what we say, it is about our actions. Others should feel a sense of care and compassion from us. This is very important. For example, as lay practitioners, if we have generated bodhicitta, we shouldn't be constantly arguing or fighting with our family members. In this front, some Buddhist families are Not as good as ordinary families. This is unreasonable. Our family is also a karmic relationship. From the Mahayana Buddhist perspective, we shouldn't behave like this. In some foreign countries, when His Holiness went to America, he found that they have a tradition of Christian family education. For example, every month a family will invite their pastor or spiritual teacher to their home to teach everyone in the family, giving them religious education and guidance. After this, their families live in great harmony and love. In this way, religion truly shows its compassion and the light of wisdom in the family. If we don't do this, then in China and many other places, our Buddhist teachings aren't really applied in practical aspects of society. Many Dharma teachers don't preach this either. It's not that Buddhism lacks this ability. In fact, Buddhism can be integrated with any place or any culture. It can blend with the culture of any corner of the world. And wherever it is integrated, it fits perfectly. Buddhism is like a wonderful universal medicine. Therefore, it can be mixed with milk, with water, or with nectar. Any way you take it, it works. Although Buddhism was taught by Buddha Shakyamuni in India, when it came to the Tibetan region, it adapted to Tibetan customs and cultural characteristics, and then Buddhism blossomed and bear fruit in the hearts of Tibetan people. When it spreads to the Han Chinese area, it adapts to Chinese customs and social traditions. As it adapts to society, it brings benefit and can liberate sentient beings. So sometimes in the process of spreading the Dharma, I feel that bodhicitta truly cannot be separated from the society. But when we talk about bodhicitta, most people may not know what bodhicitta really means. In fact, bodhicitta is a kind of care, a kind of loving kindness. This kind of love can appear everywhere, whether in the family or in the workplace, as I mentioned, in the monastery, in any group, or even throughout the whole world. If we speak even more broadly, then in all infinite worlds, the light of love can appear. In this way, all beings can receive warmth. So sometimes, as people who spread the Dharma, we should show its unique qualities at different times and to different beings. If we don't apply it when interacting with others, as Buddhists, we may keep saying things like generating bodhicitta, but it doesn't work. If we truly have bodhicitta in our mind streams, we should apply it when we go shopping, or when we take the bus, or in whatever we do. There are many people and non-humans around us. Even on the grass outside, there are many poor beings. So our bodhicitta can be applied in many situations. It can be put into practice. Whether we use it or not is up to our own practice. So-called practice is not just sitting with our eyes closed for a long time. Putting the teachings of the Dharma in real actions is what makes us a true practitioner. It makes us a genuine practitioner in name and in fact. I think the principles taught in the Dharma should be reflected in our words and actions. Always maintain this spirit in everything we do. This is the greatness of the Dharma. As we just discussed, people in the world all want happiness for themselves. Some want to get rich, some want success, some want promotion, and so on. But in any case, only an altruistic mind can bring true fulfillment. This is something we can see in the world. Those who wish to destroy the countless sufferings in the three realms, who wish to remove all the misfortunes of other sentient beings, who wish for themselves and others to enjoy 100 kinds of happiness, should never abandon bodhicitta, because by relying on it, these goals will certainly be achieved. This is the third point we are discussing. Now the fourth point, transformation of status. After studying bodhicitta, or giving rise to bodhicitta in our mind streams, our name and our true meaning are both transformed. Everything becomes a truly auspicious state. Here it is explained as follows. Should bodhicitta come to birth in those who suffer, chained in prisons of samsara, in that instant they are called the children of the blissful one, revered by all the world, by gods and humankind. Literally, this verse means that in the prison of birth and death, all those pitiful, suffering beings who are bound in samsara, if they give rise to bodhicitta in their mind streams, then at that very moment their name is changed. They were ordinary beings, but now they become bodhisattvas, heirs of the Buddha, not just a change of name. In the world, there are so-called honorary presidents who have only a title but barely do anything. It's not like becoming an honorary president or chairman. Transformation brought by bodhicitta is genuine and true. That is to say, ordinary beings truly become a field of merit for humans, gods, Brahma, Indra, Naga kings, and countless beings, and they are truly worthy of the offerings, prostrations, and respect to them. So many people may wonder what bodhicitta really is. What is being discussed here is relative bodhicitta. We have discussed this point over and over before. We must understand this important point. Any ordinary person who has faith in the Mahayana can actually give rise to relative bodhicitta. It is not like the absolute bodhicitta, which only arises in the mind stream of noble beings, bodhisattvas, who have attained the first bhumi and above. This is taught in the introduction to the middle way. Only those above the first bhumi are called heirs of the Buddha with absolute bodhicitta. But here we are talking about relative bodhicitta. Some panditas say this refers to engaged bodhicitta, which anyone here can also generate. We can give rise to bodhicitta in our own mind streams. Even as ordinary beings, we can be called bodhisattvas. Some people may wonder, how can I be both an ordinary person and a bodhisattva? Isn't that a contradiction? Actually, it is not. Because as ordinary beings, we still have karma and afflictions in our mind streams. But as bodhisattvas, we already have developed an altruistic mind. So in terms of conduct, we can be called bodhisattvas. Can such bodhisattvas accept offerings, prostrations, and respect from others? Yes, they can accept all of these. And in doing so, there is actually no fault. If we, as ordinary people, accept offerings from others or receive their respect and prostrations, we may not be able to handle it. We may incur 4 kinds of faults, or we may break some of the pratimoksha vows. But if we have truly generated bodhicitta in our mind streams, then this will not happen. Why is samsara here compared to a prison? As everyone knows, prisoners in jail, no matter what, are confined to a small cell and can only walk around inside. Not to mention normal people. Even someone like Saddam, when imprisoned, only had about 3 meters on each side. In such a prison, we have nowhere else to go. In the same way, our samsara is like a prison. We can go up to the peak of existence or down to the Avicii hell. It's always like a bee trapped in a bottle. There is simply no way to go beyond this. That's why it's compared to a prison here. We are trapped in the prison of samsara, tightly bound inside by the shackles of karma and afflictions. Such pitiable sentient beings, such an ordinary person. But if bodhicitta arises in the mind stream, here, in an instant, does not mean just a single moment. It means at the very moment when bodhicitta arises, whenever we think, from now on, for the sake of all sentient beings, I will give up myself, I must benefit sentient beings. It means giving rise to such a mindset. It doesn't mean that from then on, our self-cherishing mind will never arise again. That's impossible. Ordinary people will definitely give rise to selfish thoughts. Even after making the aspiration, will I still have a self-cherishing mind in the future? Of course I will. Will I still do things for myself in the future? Of course I will, but our goal is already clear. As we've said before, if we want to go to Lhasa, on the way to Lhasa, we will eat and sleep. We will do all these things, and at those times we may have self-cherishing thoughts. But our goal is still to go to Lhasa. It's the same principle. Now all our actions are aimed at benefiting sentient beings. If we make such an aspiration, from then on, all our actions will change. We are no longer just ordinary people. Even among ordinary people, there are many differences. So here, when we give rise to bodhicitta, immediately our name completely changes to bodhisattva. Sometimes our dharma friends say, you're an old bodhisattva, you're an old bodhisattva. At this time, it's true that we can be called an old bodhisattva, a young bodhisattva, or a middle-aged bodhisattva. Any name is fine. Actually, as I mentioned earlier, gods, Naga kings, hungry ghosts, non-humans all make offerings to you. But this does not refer to absolute bodhicitta. In the past, some Indian scholars thought this referred to absolute bodhicitta, but later many scholars refuted this view. They said this does not refer to absolute bodhicitta. If it were absolute bodhicitta, then in the Avatamsaka Sutra and many other scriptures, absolute bodhicitta would not be described using the analogy of a diamond. Relative bodhicitta can be lost and regained. Absolute bodhicitta cannot be lost, nor does it need to be regained. So here, it should not refer to absolute bodhicitta. Rather, it should refer to relative bodhicitta. There are many reasons. The compendium of training provides extensive scriptural and logical support to show that even in the mind stream of ordinary beings, relative bodhicitta can arise. So among us here, there are definitely bodhisattvas. That goes without saying. But as ordinary people, we cannot tell who is a bodhisattva. Nevertheless, as long as we make the effort, bodhicitta will definitely arise in our mind streams. In the study of the Bodhicharyavatara, the entire text revolves around bodhicitta from beginning to end. This suits people who are diligent and have some faith in the Mahayana and who are about to awaken their Buddha nature. But for those whose Buddha nature has not awakened and who are always attached to worldly things, not to mention the Bodhicharyavatara, even listening to the best treatises many times may not help. If one is deeply attached to samsara and worldly matters, they may never give rise to bodhicitta. For such people, there is nothing we can do now. But if one truly develops faith in the Mahayana Dharma and the spiritual potential is mature, it's like in spring, if we water the flowers, many of them gradually bloom. For such people, if we don't water them and don't give teachings, their potential may not mature. But when the right conditions come, their potential matures immediately. For such people, I believe that the relative bodhicitta will arise once they hear the teaching of the Bodhicharyavatara. Once they give rise to relative bodhicitta, doing any virtuous deed becomes easy because the goal is clear. From then on, everything becomes much easier. I must honestly say, is there such a systematic approach in Han Buddhism? You can see this for yourselves. It is rare to find this approach in many schools. So this time, we are studying systematically and step by step, following Master Shantideva. I believe many people will truly give rise to bodhicitta in their mind streams. This is truly a wish-fulfilling jewel for us. It is no different from a real wish-fulfilling jewel. Why is that? Although one is an ordinary person, how can they give rise to such bodhicitta in their mind streams? We have quoted this before in the auto-commentary to Entering the Middle Way. In ancient India, many people worship the moon as a deity. However, they would not bow to the full moon on the 15th day. They would bow to the new moon on the first day. In the same way, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is not the only object of worship. One should bow to the person who first gives rise to bodhicitta. The Buddha said we should bow to such a person because they are truly remarkable. So if bodhicitta arises in our mind streams, then we are new bodhisattvas and others should bow to us. If others bow to you, you don't need to say one bow is enough or don't bow, don't bow. You can say go ahead and bow. I am a bodhisattva now. Look, today I just gave rise to bodhicitta. This bodhicitta is very fresh. You will gain great merit by bowing. You can say that. The Buddha also said this in the Sutra of the Questions of Kashyapa and the Heap of Jewels Sutra. He taught the same thing. For example, when the son of a wheel-turning king is born, even though he cannot yet perform the king's duties, the people and ministers of neighboring countries and all the subjects should bow to him as they would to the king. Why do people bow to him? Because he was born into the royal lineage and has just entered the world. His very birth makes him worthy of the homage of people from all countries. Of course, this child cannot yet perform the king's duties. He has not yet ascended the throne. Ascending the throne is like reaching the first bhumi of a bodhisattva. At the first bhumi, we truly inherit the throne. But now, after being born, people from every country can show him respect. It is the same principle. If bodhicitta arises in our mind streams, though we cannot directly benefit sentient beings or manifest 100 bodies to benefit 100 beings in a single instant, but we have truly been born into the family of the king or the Tathagata, so it is very reasonable to bow to such a person. This principle is explained further below. So the text goes on. Such bodhicitta, no matter in whose mind stream it arises, is always worthy of homage. The Buddha also said this in the Vinaya Pitaka. He said we should bow to bodhisattvas who have just generated bodhicitta. to those who have just given rise to bodhicitta. Even if such bodhicitta arises in the mind stream of an animal, we should still pay respect. For example, if someone truly has knowledge of others' minds and knows that a yak has bodhicitta in its mind stream, or that it is a bodhisattva's emanation, we should immediately bow to that yak. It is appropriate because the yak is truly a bodhisattva. Whoever possesses bodhicitta is worthy of respect. We have discussed this before. Some Kadampa teachings say that if someone has bodhicitta in their mind streams, wherever that person lives, that place becomes auspicious and a field of merit for offerings. Whichever country it is, that country becomes a pure land. Sometimes we really think this way. For example, someone like His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche is universally recognized and without any dispute. No matter how we observe His Holiness ourselves, he is certainly a bodhisattva who has generated bodhicitta, even though he often spoke with great humility. Still, even if such a bodhisattva remains in the world for just one day, all beings who see, hear, or remember him receive tremendous benefit, so bodhisattvas are completely different from ordinary beings. If an ordinary person blesses you by touching your head, it may not mean much. But if it is a bodhisattva, it is completely different. Whenever a bodhisattva connects with sentient beings, they all receive benefit. So we should do everything we can to generate bodhicitta. Whether we are monastics or lay practitioners, since we all have many people around us, we want to help many people through the Dharma. However, not to mention absolute bodhicitta, we don't even have relative bodhicitta in our own mind streams, then just talking about it cannot really help anyone, since anyone can talk, but words alone are useless. So we must truly give rise to bodhicitta from the heart. We should do everything we can to help others give rise to bodhicitta as well. In that case, no matter what happens, whether others slander us or criticize us, we will benefit sentient beings directly or indirectly. Benefiting sentient beings is our greatest goal. So everyone should reflect on this deeply. Everyone should understand the importance of bodhicitta. In the prison of samsara, those suffering beings tightly bound by karma and afflictions, if they can give rise to bodhicitta, then in that very instant, from that moment on, they are called the children of all the Tathagatas, and in meaning, they become a field of homage for gods and humans. All right, we will stop here for today.
Kirgana jirano chupai, chupun zonen droa droa sho.
Bandangara badna sodargye. Bandangara badna sodargye. Bandangara badna sodargye.